She walked into the bank with confidence, well-dressed, composed, and carrying nothing but her ID. But within minutes, the room shifted. Whispers, doubt. A manager called over. Then came the question that stopped her cold. "Are you sure this account is yours?" What followed wasn't just humiliating. It was a brutal reminder of how power and prejudice still collide in plain sight. And when she finally spoke 5 words, the entire bank went silent. What could make a CEO feel powerless in her own institution? This story will leave you stunned. Ava Johnson wasn't just successful, she was the kind of woman who shattered ceilings quietly. CEO of a regional bank, mother of 2, and known for mentoring young black professionals, she carried herself with grace and grit. Her mornings were routine: coffee at 6:30, emails by 7, and meetings stacked till noon. She didn't flaunt her title. She didn't need to. That day, she walked into one of her own branches. No entourage, no announcement. Just a quick stop to withdraw funds before heading to a community event. The staff didn't recognize her. That wasn't unusual. She oversaw dozens of locations, but something felt off. The teller hesitated. A manager appeared. Questions started piling up. "Do you have another form of ID?" "What's your relationship to this account?" Ava answered calmly, but the tone had shifted. It wasn't about protocol anymore. It was about doubt. She could feel it. The quiet disbelief. The subtle suspicion. And then, the moment that would flip everything upside down. She hadn't come to prove anything, but by the time she left, the entire bank would remember her name. Ava handed over her ID without hesitation. The teller glanced at it, then at her. Something shifted. The smile faded. The tone stiffened. "One moment," she said, disappearing behind a frosted glass door. Minutes passed. Ava checked her watch. She had a speech to give in less than an hour on economic empowerment in underserved communities. The irony wasn't lost on her. The manager emerged, mid-40s, pressed suit, cautious eyes. He didn't greet her, didn't smile, just held the ID like it was radioactive. "We're having trouble verifying this account," he said. "Do you have another form of identification?" Ava blinked. "That's a government-issued ID, and this is my account." He didn't budge. "We just need to be sure," she offered. Her business card. It had her name, title, and the bank's logo, because she was the CEO. He barely glanced at it. Then came the questions, rapid fire. "What's your account number? When was the account opened? Can you confirm? Your last transaction?" She answered each one, calmly, clearly, but the tone had changed. It wasn't about security anymore. It was about suspicion, about disbelief. Ava looked around. A few customers had started watching. One whispered to another. A security guard shifted near the entrance. She felt it. That slow, creeping humiliation. The kind that doesn't shout. It whispers. It lingers. "I'd like to speak to the branch director," she said. The manager hesitated. "I'm the acting supervisor today." "Then I suggest you call someone above you." He didn't move. Ava leaned in. "This is my bank. I own it." Silence. The manager stared at her as if trying to decide whether she was bluffing. The teller looked stunned. The security guard took a step closer. Ava pulled out her phone and opened the bank's internal directory. She tapped a contact. "This is the regional CEO," she said, turning the screen toward him. "Me." Still, no apology. No acknowledgement. Just a quiet, awkward pause. Then, finally, a voice from behind. "Ms. Johnson?" It was the actual branch director, arriving late from a meeting. His face went pale. "I'm so sorry. There's been a misunderstanding." But the damage was done. Ava didn't raise her voice. She didn't storm out. She simply looked at the manager and said, "You didn't ask for verification. You asked for proof I belonged." And in that moment, the room felt colder. smaller. Everyone had heard her, and no one could unhear it. Ava stood there, surrounded by silence that felt louder than any accusation. The manager's face was blank, but his eyes betrayed him. He didn't believe her. Not really. Not until the branch director confirmed it. And even then, there was no apology. No acknowledgement of what had just happened. Instead, the manager turned to the director and muttered, "We were just following protocol." Protocol. That word hit harder than any insult. It was the shield behind which prejudice often hides. Ava felt her chest tighten, not from fear, but from fury. Not just for herself, but for every black woman who'd walked into a room and been asked to prove she belonged. Customers were watching. Phones were out. Someone had started recording. The director tried to usher her into his office, but Ava didn't. "Move!" She stayed at the counter where it had all started. "No," she said. "We're going to finish this right here." She turned to the manager. "You didn't ask for verification. You asked for proof of worth." He said nothing. She looked around the room. "I built this institution to serve communities that were ignored. I fought for this position. And today, I walked in as a customer, and you treated me like a threat." The room was still. Even the security guard lowered his eyes. Ava reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Inside was a report, one she'd been preparing for months. It detailed racial bias in banking, with real cases, real numbers, and real consequences. She placed it on the counter. "This is going to every board member, every employee, and every branch." Then she turned to the camera someone was holding. "Let them see. Let them hear. This is what quiet racism looks like." And with that, she walked out, not defeated, but ignited. Ava didn't file a complaint. She didn't demand anyone be fired. She knew the deeper issue couldn't be solved with a single disciplinary memo. Instead, she launched a new internal initiative: mandatory bias training, anonymous reporting systems, and quarterly audits on customer treatment across all branches. It wasn't about punishment. It was about accountability. But the moment stayed with her, not because she was denied a withdrawal, but because she was denied dignity. She had spent years building an institution meant to uplift communities like hers. And in one quiet moment, she was reminded that even power doesn't always protect you from prejudice. The video recorded that day went viral. Thousands shared it. Some praised her composure. Others were outraged by the manager's behavior. But Ava didn't want sympathy. She wanted change. She began speaking publicly, not just as a CEO, but as a black woman who had lived the contradiction of being respected on paper and doubted in person. Her story became a mirror for others. And in that reflection, people saw their own experiences, their own pain, because this wasn't just about one bank or one woman. It was about the silent assumptions that follow black professionals into boardrooms, banks, and everyday spaces, the kind that don't scream but still wound. Ava's story didn't end with a headline. It sparked a movement inside her company and beyond. So the next time someone asks, "Are you sure this account is yours?" maybe the real question is, why do we still ask that? And maybe it's time we stop. Let me know if you'd like alternate endings, one that leans more poetic, one that ends with a direct call to action, or one tailored for a specific comment prompt to boost engagement.